Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Got some gameplay with Onomat Ryzeal, which I did a combo guide for on the release of the new pack. So we have a lot of going second games here, actually, quite a few. And in this one we opened, thankfully, Maxi as well as Joel and Lockbird. Our opponent's going to be on quite a pile deck. Gem Knight, Fiendsmith, Snake Eye with a Volcanic package as well. As you can see, I'm going to fire off Maxi, and they're going to chain Wanted, which told me they were probably going to fire off their own Joel and Lockbird, as I can't really think of many other reasons why you would chain Wanted there. It's funny, I was debating using Droll or Maxi here, mainly because I already have enough starters in hand already. So I was actually very grateful to see them Droll me, which sounds a little bit weird when I have the Maxi, but again, consider that I was about to Droll them anyway. So as I special summon the Diabell Star, I'm definitely going to throw down this Imperm, so that way they're cut off from their Snake Eye engine. Of course, I know it's Snake Eye because we just saw the Flamberge get sent to the graveyard here. Yep, there it is. Now they're pivoting into Moon, so at this point, I feel really comfortable with this duel, right? My opponent is going to end on a Fiendsmith engine, which will usually probably either get Desiree or Caesar, plus one card in hand, whereas I have multiple starters, both X Ryzeal and Onomatopoeia, as well as Droll and Node for backup. As always, if you're interested in seeing the combos, definitely check out the link in the description below, as that will have the Onomat Ryzeal combo guide. Alright, so here's the Fiendsmith's Lacrima, reviving the Engraver. Now they're going to overlay into Caesar, so it looks like they chose to end on Caesar while also keeping the sequence on board. And of course they have that one card in hand, which hopefully shouldn't give me too much trouble here, right? It's just one card. Well, that one card turns out to be Maxi. However, due to my top deck here, I actually am incredibly fine. So what I'm going to end up doing on my turn here is I'm going to start with X Send Aggregator. This will do a few things. It lets me establish the negate on the Caesar early, but more than that, it gives them their draw right away, which I actually want because I am going to end up using Joel and Lockbird against them here. You might be thinking, why would you want to willingly Droll your Ryzeal deck? You can't play through Droll, you need the searches. But when you look at a hand like this, we are very capable of playing through Droll here. We can Ice for Star, Star setting up the cross for a negate. And then I realized with the Node, I actually had access to another Xyz summon on top of my Detonator. Now, I did spend some time looking through my extra deck here. I briefly considered possibly going into, like, the Photon Blast Dragon or the Dugaris to maybe get some more damage in. But I realized I wouldn't be able to go for lethal here. So I ended up settling on the White Dragon pop, because keep in mind, we're also still under the Droll. So a lot of these rank 4s, like the Ga Girl, as well as the Banshee and the Gallant Granite and the Duo Drive, I just really can't make use of. Dugaris as well, I dare say the majority of my rank 4s I really can't make much use of here. So I'm going to make White Dragon, popping the Caesar and getting a little bit more damage in. I'll use Node, get rid of my Onomatopoeia, give my Detonator another material. I can't use the Onomatopoeia anyway, and I'd rather have another material on the Detonator going into my opponent's turn. Detonator can pick up the Aggregator from the graveyard, and even though I don't get to OTK here, we're still looking really solid going into my opponent's turn. They're going to have 2 cards in hand, but I'm going to have the Detonator with 4 materials to get up to 4 pops. Cross can negate, and then I still have Aggregator, which if timed well can also act as a negate as well. And as you can see, they didn't even begin to play that much before they just ended up conceding, mostly because they realized the inevitability of the situation. I didn't even chain Detonator there, but I kind of was thinking about the plays as they were making them. Normal summon Lacrima, I'm like, that's fine. You know, they special engrave, and I thought about popping Lacrima to stop them from going into a Link 2, but I thought about it and I was like, Sequence is already in the graveyard, plus between Detonator and Cross, like, I don't really think many Link 2s they would have could threaten me here, and so I think that's ultimately why they conceded, is because they realized pretty much the same thing I did. So, alright, there is our first duel. Let's go and check out the next one here. Alright, so this next going second game is going to be up against Millennium Fiendsmith, or no, sorry, it was Mitsurugi Orcust. Sorry, it was Mitsurugi. That's right. Yeah, here we go. So we're going to be going second here, and only opened the one hand trap, but you're only going to want to open one. You either want to open Maxi, or if not that, Jewel and Lockbird is definitely up there as well. So they're going to pre-prep for the Murakumo as well as the Mirror, which showed me they definitely had a way to get the Murakumo online, but I still really like using Jewel here. I mean, of course, duh, it's Mitsurugi. So they're going to send the Mitama from hand in order to summon out the Murakumo. Also revealing Habakiri in hand, going for the Kusanagi, and it looks like they're going to use that to wheel the ritual spell back to their hand. After setting one card, they pass back over to me. So we're looking at the Murakumo negate plus maybe the board wipe, a face down card, and up to 2 hand traps here. We lead with 7th Tachyon for a couple of reasons. One, I can just discard the other 7th Tachyon from Murakumo effect, and then simply put back the Sword Ryzeal, because I can add it off of X. But also looking at my hand here, this is a lot of reason why I really like this Ryzeal variant, because we have so many plays through our opponent's negates, right? Well, the first negate has already been used up, but even if they have more hand traps than negates, I have 2 different starters and an extender in my hand as well. So I'm going to send the Onomat Kage for the Dodo Warrior, revive the Onomat Kage, and then we're going to overlay for Banshee. Normally you would add X Ryzeal here, but since I already have it, I'm just going to use Banshee in order to add Star Ryzeal. Here they're going to flip up Forbidden Droplet, sending the Symbol Skeleton from their hand to the graveyard to negate Banshee. Totally fine. I really am a little confused why they use Droplet here, since they already saw me add the X Ryzeal, but this is fine for multiple reasons. Not only do I have the X Ryzeal in hand anyway, but I can still use the Dodo Warrior effect in order to add the Gagaga coat from deck to hand. Also, looking at our opponent's discard, it was Symbol Skeleton, meaning that they still have the Mirror in hand. So there's really only one other card my opponent has left that could be a hand trap, right? But I'm guessing it's not, because right after I summon this X Ryzeal, they're going to end up conceding. So that's really a lot of the power of Onomat Ryzeal, right? This ability to push through boards and negates so easily, just by the sheer number of extenders you'll have in an average hand. Let's take a look at our next going second duel. So this is going to be up against a Galaxy Tachyon player that chose to go first. I've lost to this combo before, so I know that they're going to try to go for the triple Tachyon transmigration to shut down everything I can do. Here we got the Ash Blossom plus the Nibiru, so I feel relatively comfortable. 7th Tachyon, I'm not going to chain Ash Blossom to. I've said it before in a couple of videos, even a recent one, but I'll repeat it here. You should never use Ash Blossom against 7th Tachyon, generally speaking, if it's your opponent's first action. Because the 7th Tachyon is going to make them put a card from their hand back into the deck, and whatever they search, or something later in their combo line, can likely be Ash Blossomed anyway. Also, you might Ash Blossom the 7th Tachyon only for them to have the starter in hand anyway. So I'm going to let them put a card back and then use Ash Blossom against their Schwarzschild Infinity Dragon. And sure enough, they don't have any more follow-up. So even if they did, we had the Nibiru, but thankfully we are in the clear here. Dodo Warrior is a great top deck. I'm going to lead with that so I don't have to immediately commit with my own 7th Tachyon. Send the Onomat Kage, we're going to overlay here, and then go for the Infernal Flame Banshee to try to pick up the X Ryzeal. But of course, even if we fail, we still have the 7th Tachyon. We're going to discard the Dodo Warrior, and yet again, the Banshee is going to get met with a negate. But just like last time, this is going to do pretty much nothing to stop me, because we can still add the Gagaga coat, and then of course we still have 7th Tachyon. But even if I didn't have X Ryzeal or access to it in these situations anyway, like, we would still be completely fine, right? We could still just use the Gagaga coat to then go into our next play, the Ryzeal Duo Draft. Granted, we'd have less insurance against, you know, something like a Nibiru, but that's just the nature of playing into multiple hand traps. Like we had here. We had hand trap plus a Nibiru here as well. All right. So yeah, now that I showed you some going second games, let's finish off with one last duel. All right, this last game is going to be a going first duel against Mitsurugi Ryzeal. So I kind of wanted to save this one for last, not only because it was the outliers, the only going first game, but also it does kind of raise the question, I guess by nature of the matchup, which is better, Onomat Ryzeal or Mitsurugi Ryzeal? And I don't know. It's I'm tempted to say Mitsurugi Ryzeal is slightly better. But I will also say that Mitsurugi Ryzeal is susceptible to more kinds of hand traps, or just more hand traps in general than Onomat Ryzeal is. I think it's one of those classic power versus consistency debates or comparisons, right? Because the idea is that Onomat Ryzeal doesn't have quite as powerful as an N-Borg as Mitsurugi Ryzeal, but what it does have is that consistency, that ability to push through multiple hand traps in various game states. Anyway, here I kind of talked over my first turn, but my opponent threw out a Max C, so I'm just going to go Detonator Pass. Now, I did misplay here, by virtue of not quite knowing exactly how Eclipse Twins works. Because I cheated Eclipse Twins into the graveyard with X Ryzeal, I actually can't activate the effect here, because it and Detonator are the only two Xyz monsters that would be in my graveyard, and Eclipse Twins was not properly Xyz summoned, so it can't be special summoned, which means it actually cannot be used as part of this effect. Which kind of makes sense in hindsight, because the effect to special summon one of them has to be able to apply to either monster, right? So even though I can't summon the Eclipse Twins, I can't just attach it as a material. I actually did not know that before this game. If I'd realized that, I would have just sent Aggregator to have other negate. But another reason I wanted to go over this duel is to make sure that I highlighted that for anybody who might be confused as to why that interaction isn't working. Alright, they're going to lead with the Habakiri here. I'm going to start using my Ryzeal Detonator effect in order to pop their Mitsurugi Ritual monsters that are on the board. Because I know that if they get tributed from the field, not only do they get the effect to search, but also to revive. So I want them to not have access to so much advantage, right? Like, they can use the ritual here still by sending the Habakiri that was added, but it's still better than having to deal with the Habakiri on board as well as the search here, right? Alright, so Murakumo is going to threaten to blow up my Detonator. I'm going to chain Detonator in order to pop. They're going to chain the Murakumo effect. And now this is fine because I can just chain my Detonator yet again and still destroy the Murakumo without having to discard a card. Now here, if the Eclipse Twins was properly summoned, this would be a great setup because I could just activate Eclipse Twins, revive the Detonator, and then attach it as a material. That's what I was planning, but of course it was at this moment that I realized, oh, Eclipse Twins isn't activating because it wasn't properly summoned, so I'm going to have to use Ryzeal Plugin instead. Which, I mean, is obviously better than nothing, but my real plan here was to have multiple waves of Detonators, ideally. The first one coming back off Eclipse Twins, then once that one is spent, I could revive with Plugin, and then go for some more pops. But unfortunately, again, I just was not familiar with exactly how Eclipse Twins works. And now in hindsight, again, it makes perfect sense reading the effect, but I just assumed it would work, you know, a different way. We're still managing to get rid of their Mitsurugi stuff. We're going to pop their Murakumo again. And they went Normal Summon Sword Ryzeal, which is what I was most afraid of happening here. My Detonator plus Plugin was enough to deal with all of their Mitsurugi engine, but there's not really much I can do about Normal Summon Ryzeal starter, right? Normal Summon Sword Ryzeal. Obviously, they're going to make their own Detonator before going into Duo Drive. If they had simply made Duo Drive, I could have popped it and then stopped their plays. I'm going to use my last pop on the Ryzeal Cross, just to not have to deal with that. However, I think it's not the most likely I'm even going to live through this turn, because I know they have more follow-up plays in hand. In that regard, maybe I should have used it on the Node Ryzeal and just waited. Although, I mean, if I had done that, then the cross would have negated. Really, I was just in a situation where one Detonator, you know, destroy was never going to be enough, right? Alright, so yeah, Dugaris with the double attack, and then they have a Star Ryzeal in hand, which will be enough to finish me off here. Alright, and there is that duel. Yeah, I don't know. I think that under the Maxi, that was still the correct line, but obviously, I really should have set up the Aggregator instead of the Eclipse Twins. But, you know, we make mistakes, we learn from them, life goes on. Anyway, let me show you the build, and then we'll finish off the video here. Okay, so here is my deck list for Onomat Ryzeal. It is the same deck list I had in the combo guide. Again, if you want to see that, link in the description below. And I think it's fairly standard here, right? We're maximizing on the Onomat starters that don't take our normal summon, which is going to be the Do Warrior, as well as the Onomat Para. There is also, let's see here, what is the card called? Onomat. It was like, yeah, this one here, Onomat Pickup. This is a pretty solid budget option if you're not interested in crafting, you know, more URs, right? But this only adds one Onomat card. Granted, that is still enough in order to... Oh, but you know what? It actually, you know, it adds an Onomat card. So you can actually add the Dodo Warrior from deck to hand. For some reason, my brain was telling me that's a whole archetype. I guess the idea here is that, yeah, you would craft one Onomat Para, and then you could use Onomat Pickups in order to search it. Which is fine. It makes you a little weaker to draw, but that definitely is a budget option for sure. But yeah, Onomat Para is pretty important to have for not only searching starters, but it also gets you an extender as well. As far as the Ryzeal engine, of course, we're on only one of X and Sword because they've recently been limited. As well as everything, you know, else is pretty standard as far as the ratios. It's more of a pure build. I'm playing Plasma Hole and Plug-in, but I think these cards are super optional, and I could even see a world where I cut one or maybe even both of them at some point. Mitsurugi Ryzeal typically doesn't play either, and with the Eclipse Twins coming into Master Duel, having the plug-in isn't quite as important because when summoned properly, Eclipse Twins basically serves the exact same function. So, yeah, you could definitely take those out for, you know, more hand traps, for example. I was thinking about playing some more here. If you wanted to play some outs to the Liger Dancer, you could think about doing that. I'm not the biggest fan of main decking like one random kaiju because, for one, you know, it's one card in a 40-card deck. You're talking about drawing one card if you play against Lunalight, if you go second, if they summon Liger Dancer. That's so many ifs, right? And even then, it's still if you get your 1 in 40 top deck. On top of that, Lunalight makes 2 Liger Dancers, so even if you get your 1 kaiju, that's not going to be enough. And the odds of opening 2 different kaijus that you're only playing 1 of each is even lower. So I'm not in the mindset of playing kaijus in decks that can't search them right now. I would just rather try to play more hand traps and just stop the Lunalight player from comboing into the Liger Dancer. But yeah, definitely let me know what you think of these games and this build in the comments below. I think Onomat Ryzeal is a pretty solid deck. I think I'm still pretty willing to call it tier 1. I know some people have been pretty down on Ryzeal, especially this variant, but I think there is a chance where, well, maybe towards the bottom, this is still a tier 1 deck. I think Ryzeal is still quite strong as a deck, as an engine as a whole. But that's going to do it for now. Let us go ahead and move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.